Hello guys, welcome to Geek Society. I'm Nona Prince, joined by Manoj and our guest Adam Hlavac. Nice for him to be here again. He loves us guys, and we love him too for doing this. If you didn't watch our previous video with him talking about why we love Superman and the first 5 episodes of Superman and Lois, do check it out. And thank you, Adam. Thank you for being here.
Of course, thanks for having me. I like the setup, by the way. I'm like, I have the YouTube video in another window, and I'm like, well, that looks really good. I like.
Thanks. It's Adam approved now. Yeah.
I think we have achieved everything that we have to achieve in this channel.
We have to set new goals now.
Yeah.
But guys, let us know your thoughts in the chat. We'll be talking about all of it. The whole show, season 1. Spoilers. Spoiler alert. I've put a spoiler tag also. So I'm sorry if it's ruined for you, but go watch it. Why not watching the show? It's not available anywhere, not everywhere. I get that.
Yeah.
But yes, there are ways, VPN, and yeah. But
just VPN. We don't mean anything else. We don't endorse.
I don't know what else you're talking about.
I don't know what you're talking about.
Guys, if you don't know, it'll be really surprising, but do check out Adam and his channel Heroes Reforged. The links are in the description. Follow him on Twitter. Some amazing tweets, and the eternal reaction was trending, so that's great.
Yeah, I saw that tweet. Yeah.
Love to see it.
Yeah, so without any delay, let's get into it. The first question, that's the title of this video. Is this the best TCTV show and why? I know it is, but I don't want to know the why.
I would say automatically for me, it's the best TV show because it's the shortest.
Yeah, true that.
I love it. I honestly though, I think that genuinely is one of my reasons, because I was just watching a podcast with that has a friend of mine on it, and they were talking about how sometimes it's a little bit overwhelming when you're trying to get into a show and because it's traditional television, it's going to be 23, 24 episodes. That's a big commitment. Normally the shows premiere in September and they go all the way till May or June. And it's a good chunk of time. It's like almost a year of time. And the appeal of this show originally was, well, it's going to be 15 episodes. It starts in February. That means it'll probably end sometime around the summer. Obviously, because of things like COVID, they had to put some pauses in between the episodes, which it was a little frustrating because sometimes, the breaks would be a month long. Yeah. And I wouldn't forget everything, but there definitely were some key component moments that I would be like, wait, when did that happen? So that was the only thing. Outside of that, I love the 15 episode length. I love that a lot. But I think outside of that, I think the thing for me that works so well about this show is it's filled with so much heart. Yeah. And the show is really about the characters and their relationships with each other. And Lois and Clark in particular, because they are the leads of the show, you get incredible insight into their relationship in a way that we haven't really seen before, especially now because they're parents. And you really get to see how a tag team would have to work when you're dealing with somebody who has extraordinary abilities. And like General Lane says, he's the most important person in the world.
Yeah.
And on top of that, they're juggling 2 kids. They're moving back to Smallville, a city that is changed so much from when Clark was such a young kid. His mother has died. Spoilers. His dad is already dead. So I like that it has all these layers, and it doesn't shy away from tackling those sorts of questions head on. And I think for people who don't like Superman or don't understand Superman or think that he's a lame character, this gives him so much humanity, and it makes you understand his perspective so much.
Yeah.
And I think that's one of the things that I love so much about the show is if you don't like the character, you probably just don't understand him well enough. And even though we're jumping into it at a point where he's, close to his 40s and he's a dad, doesn't really matter. Like the backstory isn't super, super important, and the show does heavy lifting for you. It explains what you need to know. And I really believe that if you didn't care about the character, this show will at least make you interested enough to want to hopefully explore more about the character. At least that's what I hope.
Yeah, true that. And but your point is really that because of the breaks, sometimes I was like, oh my god, okay, when did that happen? And I had totally forgotten that there was a suit with Captain Luthor, or later find out it's Steel. He had that suit and all. I totally forgotten that he can talk in Kryptonian. And like, oh my god, that's like 5 seasons ago. So I think that was really really weird. I think but it's the time, right? In COVID, at least we got a show like this. So that's pretty interesting, Manoj.
See, for me, going into this show, I think I even talked about this last time. Like, I didn't have very high hopes because the CW was kind of going through a bit of a creative rut. I think, like, at least for me, like, the crossovers are fun, but and like I think Flash season 1, Arrow season 5, those were like some stand-up seasons, but I thought it just went through a bit of a dull phase. And I liked Tyler Hoechlin as Superman, even in Supergirl. Like, I haven't seen a lot of Supergirl, but I saw a few episodes. I liked him in there also. But I think inherently why I really like this show is because it's a Superman show, but it's also a show about family. Not to quote Vin Diesel here, but yeah, and it's done really well. Like, they actually bring that family elements really well, and they use those family elements to develop certain characteristics of Superman, like hope, which I think hope and optimism, which they do it so beautifully that for once I'm watching a Superman show that's not wrestling with itself, trying to be hopeful or trying to be dark. It's being hopeful because it wants to be hopeful. It's developing all these key characteristics, and that's what made me really love this show. Like, I think episode 11, like, where they show the whole origin of Superman and stuff like that. I know you'll probably get into that when we are, discussing more. But for me, that I was like, man, that felt so refreshing. But I think after that we kind of rewatched 1978 Superman, Christopher Superman, and a lot of the instances were actually taken from that film. And it sort of reminded me again. I'm like, oh yeah, they did this before. But in this world, in this time, to do something like that, it just felt so refreshing. So I think those are the reasons why I really love the show.
Yeah. Jason Gaza says in the chat, the secret of the show is Superman isn't a god, he's just a good guy. And I think that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, I think that's such an important element of the show that works so well, is the fact that he can do all these amazing things, but at the end of the day, he just is trying to do the right thing. He's trying to be the best possible example of mankind. Yeah. And I know people cynically think that is lame.
Yeah.
But I think Marvel did a good job with Captain America in the movies, and still taking those concepts of being a good man and being, mild-mannered and all that sort of stuff and making it work. And this show did what those movies did for Captain America. It really makes that work. And of course, there's moments where Superman struggles and he gets frustrated, and him and Lois, they butt heads and they go back and forth. One of my favorite moments is when where all these things are happening, and then Lois tells him, by the way, we almost got killed by Leslie Lar.
Yeah.
And he just goes, oh. And you can just feel all the weight of that. And it's a great moment for comedic timing. But at the same time, you're sitting there, you're watching, you're like, man, this guy is going through it. Yeah. And it's very relatable because, sometimes at a point in our lives, we also go through moments where things are just happening one after the other, and it feels endless. But so I like that. I like that humanization of the character kind of makes him feel that much more like a regular human being, even though he is a god. But, that's what I really loved about the show.
Yeah. I think for me, I was really, really worried for the show when it came out, and because CW was just, I was done with it, and I just wanted just a refresh, something to refresh my mind. And the first 5 episodes did, and we talked about those episodes, and still even now I know the show is so good, but I'm still worried for season 2. But I think what I've realized is that this show is so fundamentally different than all the other DC shows on CW especially. Because I think after Arrow's success, all the shows try to, do the same thing over again.
Emulate the same formula.
And this show doesn't do that. It's not a superhero show. It's a family drama show based in a superhero world. And I think they are sticking to it till now. There are moments where will they, it's a point where they have to take a decision to be a superhero show or a family drama show. And they always do be a family drama show. And there's so many moments where I'm more excited to see the family dynamics than the superhero showdown. I'm not really looking forward to that. I want to see this drama unfold more. So I think that's the biggest victory of this show, and I just hope they continue with it. And even, you know, the cliffhanger, it's not a big villain reveal or something like that. It's a character which will, you know, change the family dynamics again. It will challenge the family dynamics. And, you know, I mean, again, you know, they, every time I'm in doubt, they deliver. And I'm like, okay, thank God. So that's good.
Yeah, I agree though, because the season finale is not a big cliffhanger for a villain. And I kind of found it refreshing.
True.
Because traditionally, except for maybe Flash season 1, it wasn't necessarily a villain. It was an event that was about to happen. Like, I think that finale is amazing for season 1 of The Flash. But it's true. Normally, you're introducing or setting up what's going to be the big bad of the second season. And in this, not at all. It's all about, how's the drama in the family now going to elevate and escalate with John Henry and Lois's daughter coming back into the picture. So that's super interesting. And I'm really surprised that that's where they ended things. But like you, I agree. The action is the icing on the cake for me.
Yeah.
It's the personal moments that we spend with Lois, Clark, the kids, John Henry, General Sam Lane. That's like, if that doesn't work for me, then the action can be as cool as it is. And I'm just not that interested in it. But because the family drama and the character building is so strong, it makes me that much more excited for when we do get to an action sequence, because you're so emotionally invested in what's going on.
True.
Yeah. Totally. And I think the chat is talking about Titans is better, Doom Patrol is better.
I haven't watched the last episode of Titans.
Yeah.
Titans season 3, not bad so far, but we haven't had the new season of Doom Patrol yet, so we'll see. But I'm really happy with Titans being better. You know, I've really liked Doom Patrol, and as a Superman fan, I'm super happy that I have a Superman thing that, like, I feel like is made by people who genuinely love the character.
Yeah.
Understand.
Amrik Singh has a really good, question for Adam. Adam, what do you think of the change DC Comics has made about Superman dropping the American way? And even in the, I think, 11th episode, in the we see his story unfold. We see that he doesn't say the American way. You know?
Yeah.
Right. Which, if I'm being honest, it doesn't really change anything about Superman for me. Superman has always been a character that's been embraced by the world. And he is all about protecting the world. He's not the greatest hero of the United States. He's not the greatest hero of North America. He's the world's greatest hero. Yeah. So I think it's more appropriate and more fitting for him to not necessarily feel like he has to be tied to just the American way. You know, it's the universal way. So that doesn't bother me at all, because he's always been a character, you know, and I think it's really tough because he's a character that obviously was created in America. The comic books are published in America. A lot of the stories take place in the United States because they're in Metropolis, they're in Smallville, you know, they're in whatever city the other superheroes are in. Obviously, there's a ton of them that take place in space. We've taken Superman international, but not all the time and not for great lengths of time. But regardless, I don't think that should matter. I think Superman is the world's greatest hero, and I think fighting for truth and justice is good enough for me.
Yeah. I think
the show made conscious attempts to make him a global hero within their budgets, you know.
Yeah.
So
I think it's like in the third or fourth episode, he like goes to China and he saves that bridge from collapsing.
The third episode,
Yeah. You know, so like he's doing stuff constantly.
He goes to Spain, I think.
Yeah. It's either Spain or Mexico. I think he goes to Mexico for the bank robbery.
Okay.
But in any case, like
in Spanish, I think. I don't know.
Yeah. In any case, they're making efforts to show you that he's like a hero for the world, not necessarily for one city or one country, which I like.
Yeah. And I think in episode 11, they were Indians also.
Yeah. We were hoping Superman would speak in some kind of Indian language, but I don't know.
No, that's
when he spoke Spanish, I loved that. And I want more of that. I want to see more of him speaking other languages and saving people from around the world. I really like that. And I think, again, that goes back to the whole thing of, well, what about the American way? It's like, yeah, but he's not just a hero for America. He's a hero for the people, regardless of where they are in the world.
True.
Yeah. And even until now, right, even if he was an American superhero, everyone could relate to it, right? Even, we sitting in India, we, love him, we adore him as a character. So I think that says it all. Okay, so there are a lot of chat going on. Guys, we'll take most of the questions we can. and we're trying to follow a structure in this. So whenever it's applicable, I'll ask this question. But also we'll be going to the comments from the reaction we did. So don't worry, and let's move on to the finale. Your thoughts on that?
So everything that we were building up to in the finale, I really liked so much.
Yeah.
And I think Adam Rayner, who plays Morgan Edge, that actor did a great job. There's a moment in episode 13 where he finally like accepts the Eradicator.
Yeah.
And his eyes turn blue and he's in the prison and he breaks through the prison walls and he just like floats out of the prison and then flies out of there. Those moments, those just like very subtle, slow, kind of borderline terrifying moments really work for me. And I like the fact that this show stuck to one villain.
Yeah.
It wasn't villain of the week. It was telling one story with one main villain and then some subsets of villains. And I knew that building up to that we're going to get to a point where, okay, this is now going to have to be some sort of a showdown.
Yeah.
At the same time, though, you're juggling all these other emotional moments of things happening of, Jordan being kidnapped, John and General Sam Lane and Sarah being in the accident. The whole time I'm thinking, is Sarah going to find out that Jordan has powers? Is she then going to find out that his father is Superman? All these sorts of things. Are Lana and Kyle going to leave Smallville? Like, where's all that drama heading towards? But I still appreciated that the finale kept most of its focus on Superman and Morgan Edge and Lois. And I was honestly like very satisfied with how it ended. I had a pretty strong feeling that it was going to end in a way where Superman wins.
Yeah.
And it didn't feel like it was going to be one of those finales where he gets away or, whatever.
Yeah.
It really felt like it was just going to kind of close up and that was going to be it. So I was very happy with it. It continued to sell the promise of what the show started with, which was like, you're going to get a really intellectually written story about family.
Yeah.
And I really enjoyed it. And it's tough because I feel like maybe if I was younger, if I was like, in my years of watching Smallville, maybe I wouldn't be so excited about it because it maybe would have felt either like too slow or not enough action or something. But it's weird, as you get older, your tastes kind of change and your expectations for things change. So I'm now mostly there for the drama and for the character development. And I feel like it really sort of like brings it back and delivers on the promise of the way of what it sets up. And to me, it was like, yeah, you defeated the villain. If you did this in a season 2 again, it would just kind of feel like you're repeating the process. So there's no reason to have this carryover. Now it's, again, like we talked about, it's about the family drama and building off of that and see what's going to happen. So I really liked the finale. It was a really satisfying ending. And it's also one of those endings that if we never got a season 2, I would still feel pretty fulfilled.
Yeah. It felt like that.
Series.
Yeah.
One season.
But Manoj?
Yeah. So the finale, I think this was one of the rare finales that didn't have any deaths. I kept waiting for someone to die throughout. I thought General Lane came close. Steel came really close. I thought he was done, but
I was going to be so mad if he was dead. I was like, you cannot put John Henry Irons in this show and then kill him. I will riot. I will drive to Burbank and I will protest at Warner Brothers.
But I think in spite of not having any deaths, I even told to Noon, I think while watching the episode that, Steele's story is pretty beautiful. Like the way they brought his story, like he was someone who came to take revenge and how he sort of came to this earth and became an ally to Superman. All of that was actually really great. But I think overall, just speaking of the finale, like how Adam said, they build on everything so well that when the actual showdown actually happened, it was not really about the action. It was more about the emotions running in. And even the show treated it that way, because I think one of the most pivotal moments of the finale was when Jordan was in that... he was under the Eradicator, I guess, and they were like trying to help him. And then And I think that was the moment that summarized the entire season for me, because like I think in that moment you kind of understood that Jordan was the soul of the show. Like it was mainly he was kind of like the center of the show. Like if you like notice right from episode 1, it was actually his story of, he was someone who was very insecure. He was kind of a nobody in Metropolis, and then he had this big discoveries, moved to Smallville with his family, still struggled throughout all these episodes, and like right now he's trying to find strength within himself to come out of it. And I thought, for me, I think that internal drama and the way they sort of directed that, edited that was done so well that, for me, that was like one of the main highlights for me in the season. And it didn't matter to me that, it was not like, like when Flash season 1 ended, or, when Arrow season 5 ended, we were like, oh man, did they actually, like, they blew up the island? Oh man, Flash is going up. Nothing like that happened here. Like, I even joked to Nona when that time ship sort of appeared, and I was like, is that Barry now? Is that how they're going to set the crossover? Like, but they didn't do anything like that. They stayed within the story of what they wanted to do, and I think I really respect that. They had faith that what the story we have told is good enough. We don't need to do something extraordinary. We'll tell the story beautifully, and I think overall it was a great finale to a pretty good show.
Yeah. I think I have something a little different, because I was just going through the reaction again, and I saw myself, I was so excited the way they build up through, I think under the halfway of the show, Smallville is in danger. Jordan is in danger. Morgan Edge, is doing this thing, is gonna explode everything. So everything is so high, but I felt, every obstacle was solved so easily. Okay, they got Jordan so quickly back. They defeated Morgan Edge. Then even Steel was gonna die, but Superman just saves him, and it gets over. And so I had this underwhelming feeling that even I was talking to Manoj that maybe small in this process Smallville gets destroyed, because I think that was the whole arc for Smallville, when Clark decided to stay in Smallville because I am to look after the place. But they defeat Morgan Edge, but they lose Smallville. So I was thought maybe that's the way they're gonna go about it. But by the end, I felt okay. They got everything happened so easily. That's my only worry. Maybe I think Morgan Edge just going away, something like that, getting away. That would have be a cheap thing, which we saw a lot in Flash season 5. But anyways, I think a solid, definitely a solid. When I compare this show, there's no complaints at all. I cannot. But when I standalone watch this show, I did feel the nothing really, the heroes didn't lose anything. Even if the Cushing family had left Smallville, that would have been a big deal. But again, it all happened. As Adam said, right, it felt like a complete story. It ended hopeful, and it felt like, oh, this is the only season we're gonna get. In that aspect, it was fun, but I definitely felt underwhelmed.
Yeah, and now that we're talking about it, it would have been interesting to see if Smallville did get not completely destroyed, but if a lot of it did. And we obviously did get to see some of it get destroyed, but not to the extent that I think they could have done it.
Yeah.
And I wonder if a lot of that, because I'm thinking about the finale, and I'm wondering maybe at that point they weren't sure whether or not they were going to have a second season. Like, I know it was announced at a certain point, but I'm wondering how much of it was already written and how much of it they had already budgeted to make it the way that they were going to make it. But my hope is that now that they do have a second season, they'll feel a lot more confident to take bigger risks and chances.
True.
And especially with doing that type of stuff, like make the stakes really high and let there be some loss and let there be some sacrifices that need to be made. I also thought that Kyle was going to die. When he goes into the building to save the woman. I thought that was going to be, a moment for him, for us to finally, after the whole season, be like, all right, he's a pretty good guy. But yeah, the stakes were elevated, but no one really like paid for those consequences. Yeah. So I do think that like there could have been a little bit more of that. It kind of feels like everything does end on too much of like a happy ending.
Yeah.
Not that that's like the most uncommon thing in superhero movies. Like, most of the superhero movies, when they resolve themselves, it's usually in a good place.
Yeah.
So I really wonder about that, of like, did it have something to do with what they had already mapped out for the finale?
Yeah.
And where they wanted to go, and once they found out they had a season 2, did any of that sort of affect the decisions that they made? But yeah, I would hope for season 2 that now that we've told this story. Let's take it up a notch, which is kind of like a tough thing because at the same time, the villain is another Kryptonian.
Yeah.
So like where do you go from there? What do you do for season 2? You have to go bigger than that.
Yeah.
Or you find a very creative way to make it not some big superpowered alien. And I don't know. Here's a question for you guys. Do you think that we will see John Cryer as Lex Luthor on this show as the villain?
I think one of the questions to the video was that, the reaction. And also, who would you like to see? And I think Barry Allen, not the real Barry Allen, but he's real enough for us, had asked this in our video that, who
he's in the chat also.
Yeah, he is.
Yeah, he is. And
so,
go
that's
ahead,
a good
Manoj.
question. No. I would like to hear your answer. Then
I am not very excited about the crossover because the show is so good. Even Diggle showing up. Again, I have no idea where this is still, when is this happening? In Crisis, they were 2 kids. Did they, in Crisis also grew them like they are 14-year-olds or they were still babies? So I have no idea which timeline it is. Where's Supergirl?
Actually, they never mentioned that they were babies in the Crisis.
Yeah,
it was just implied that it's twins. He just said 2 of them. So I mean, I don't really know where that's going though.
Look, I'm also a little bit confused by the timeline.
Yeah. So I think the thing is that as I said in the beginning, right, the show is so fundamentally different than other shows. It's really hard to because if I remember, there were thoughts that this show will start with the crossover with Batwoman, and that they canceled that because of COVID, and this is what we got, and this is amazing. So I don't know, how you connect other heroes. Then you would think, oh, there's Morgan Edge. Why they didn't call Barry? Or they were talking about, oh, Steel will help me. We need more people. We are outnumbered. Then call, Barry, call Legends. Then all these questions come into mind. And I'm really happy. Don't even answer it. I don't really want to answer it. Is it on another planet or the Earth or something like that? Don't even answer. I don't want to go there at all. And I think if we even get a crossover and we don't even see Kara and Supergirl on the show, that'll be a big disservice. It'll be painful, honestly.
And I think we just had that new trailer for the Eternals.
Yeah,
and that was everybody's question leading up to that movie is well, where were they when Thanos attacked? Why didn't they stop? And sometimes I feel sometimes as the audience, we ask them to answer way too many questions.
Yeah.
We can't just suspend our disbelief and just say well, they didn't make that movie yet, so who cares? There were no Eternals or whatever, And while I appreciate that the movie is taking the steps to answer the questions of well, we could only interfere with events that had to do with the deviants, it's we don't have to answer every single question. So I think, the whole idea of where were the Legends? Where was Flash? Where was this character? Where was that character? The show is called Superman and Lois.
Yeah.
And you already have Superman and John Henry Irons. If you start bringing in all these other characters, for people who maybe haven't seen those other shows, it could be confusing. Where's this Flash from? I've never, is he from a show? Is he from the movie? I don't really know. I've never seen the show. And I think it's totally okay for these things to be totally self-contained. And Superman and Lois can just be about that show. Could you bring in characters? Absolutely. Would I like to see Melissa Benoist maybe show up not as Supergirl, but just as Kara? Yeah, that would be awesome. I would love to see her have a cameo to just be herself and have a moment with Clark or something, or with Lois or whichever character. Could you bring in other characters from the rest of the Arrowverse? Absolutely. But only do it when you feel it's really necessary. Otherwise, let's work on developing these characters more. Let's work on the drama that we're already building here.
Yeah.
Because I think the show, it already has all of the pieces to be a great show. And I don't think you have to overcomplicate it by bringing in characters from other shows. I think Superman, the world of Superman has enough cool stuff in it that you can just continue to build that out. I think it would be insanely ballsy for the show, maybe in season 3 or something, if they finally did decide to bring a character like Batman in, or Bruce Wayne at least.
Yeah.
I don't necessarily mean giving that character a spin-off show, maybe we just bring him in, and and I know it's tough because like Batwoman is also technically connected, and that Bruce Wayne is gone, so that's kind of like where it starts to become harder. You have to adhere to the rules that you have set up in the rest of the world, and sometimes I feel like you can kind of just break those rules and just let creativity be creativity. And if you have a really cool story that would justify bringing in certain characters, just do it. I'm not going to sit there and tell you, well, you told us that this is impossible because in the show from 5 years ago, there was a rule. Like, whatever. It's fine,
Yeah.
to me, I totally agree with what you guys are saying, but I think it's like considering just looking at the show, right? Like it feels like a new beginning for DC TV shows. Like that's the way they have treated Superman and Lois. And even if you like, I think Tom Cavanaugh, who has played Reverse Flash, and he also directed the last episode. Even he talked about how different the production was. How they shot differently, how they almost went about it like it was a movie. And I think what they could do is, now, from what I understand, most of the like Flash is kind of probably in his final season or maybe 2 more seasons max. I don't see it going for more than that. You never know. But Supergirl's ending. I think in Legends of Tomorrow's also might be ending. I'm not quite sure, but I wouldn't mind doing what they did with Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. and Avengers, like way back in the day, where, it's like a one-way connection where, I wouldn't mind seeing Superman maybe pop up if they do a finale, big crossover kind of thing where they wanted to end like this side of the CW shows, but still keep Superman and Lois a bit separate. Like, you can acknowledge it. You can even bring characters, but you can bring characters in a way where you're explaining it to the audience that, okay, this is who he is and stuff like that. So then that way I wouldn't mind. Like they have to be a little bit creative with that. So I don't think a lot of new questions would also come with that. But honestly, I hope that's the way they go for it. The showrunner actually had done an interview recently, and I actually was going to say this before. Like, they actually didn't have the finale mapped like right from episode 1, so they went through a lot of changes and stuff. So it's kind of surprising that they ended up with such a good finale in spite of that. Like, they were kind of making it as they were going along. And he said that next season a lot of these questions will be explained about the crossover, about where it is. So I think we'll have to wait for next season, but I'm hoping for the best. But because we are in this, we are talking about season 2 already, and one of the questions of the video was like, who would you like to see as a villain for season 2? So I would like to know Adam's thoughts and Nona's thoughts on that.
That's a good question. Well, I think it goes back to that conversation of how do you elevate the stakes? Like, what's a bigger villain than another Kryptonian?
Yeah.
I think the character of Brainiac is fascinating.
True.
And who knows if we'll ever see it in a damn movie? Because Warner Brothers is not making any more Henry Cavill movies. So at this point, I'm kind of like, you know what? If they're not doing anything with Superman in the movie world, take all those concepts and ideas and just put it into the show. Yeah. I think they've proven that they can do it. They have the resources. The quality is up there. I mean, even look at Sci-Fi's Krypton.
Yeah.
The show looks really good. I was very impressed with that show. I thought Doomsday looked great. I thought Brainiac looked great. Like, I was really because I thought this was going to be a very small budget show.
Yeah.
And I'm sure it was to some extent, but still, I think it was visually like a very well done show. I was really impressed. So I think for this show, and my other hope for season 2 is I hope that HBO Max gets a little bit more like integrated into this show. I would love to see the show premiere simultaneously on HBO Max, and I hope that because of that they get a little bit more budget maybe. Yeah. So I think characters like Brainiac would be really cool. I see people in the chat are saying Lobo could be amazing. Another character that I thought was really fun to have on Krypton. So I think there's like a lot of stuff that you could do, and I don't necessarily think that every villain has to be, big and world ending, but I would like to see them take really big swings and really big chances in season 2. And eventually, I would think it would be fascinating to do the death of Superman.
Oh, yeah. Even the chat is talking about it. Yeah.
Like, I think the show could do it because, again, I think the show is doing a lot of the work in building up the characters in the world and making us really care about the character. So imagine I'm just throwing this out there as an example. Yeah. If you do like season 2 finale, it's the death of Superman. And then in season 3, for the first, however many episodes, it's just Steel. And maybe, you bring in, whether or not you bring in other Superman type
Jordan
characters.
finding his feet as a hero.
Exactly. Like maybe he becomes, Superman or whatever the case may be. I think that this show could really do that kind of stuff. And if we care about Superman as much as we do, and we'll care about him that much more in the future, then I really do think that the show could have a really nice emotional impact. And it will kind of almost be in line with the comic books about, now they're doing Son of Kal-El. John is now Superman. So like you can still kind of play with those concepts and have it kind of reflect what's going on in the comic books, even though the storylines are different. But I think you could really do some interesting and creative stuff. And I would love for them to do it. And I think that's the drama that I think season 1 did so well.
Yeah.
And with a character like Brainiac and exploring a little bit more of Krypton and Kandor and all these things, you could do it. Yes, Krypton kind of did it, but unfortunately, not enough people watched that show. I still think people should watch it. I think it's pretty good. But yeah, so like Brainiac, I think could be a really cool one for season 2. Maybe it's a little too obvious, but whatever, like whatever makes the show feel like it's exploring something interesting would be really cool for me.
Yeah. As the chat is saying, Cadmus, Lobo, a lot of support for Brainiac, they light. I also want Mongol for the man who has everything arc.
Yeah, I know they did that episode in Supergirl, but we should really get Mongol on the show. Like, that's the thing. Again, that's the thing. The show, because it's spending so much time developing all these characters, whatever big challenge they give Superman, you're already emotionally invested.
Yeah,
and like, I think that episode could be heart-wrenching. I'd love to see it.
Yeah.
I think whatever villain they choose, they will like a lot of the decisions they took in season 1, according to the showrunner, I think Todd Helbing, he said that it was dictated by the fact that they wanted to bring that family element. So even moving ahead, like whichever villain they bring in, I think they'll think of creative ways of how they can bring the family into the foray of Wild Super. So I think something like Death of Superman can really bring that impact.
Yeah. And I think one other thing that they could do is, I'm not saying do villain of the week. Like, I think that would be a big mistake. But I think while you're building up the main villain of the second season, you can introduce other types of villains that are from the Superman mythos here and there. Maybe an episode that has a character like Parasite or, whoever else. You can sprinkle in some of those villains. Just don't fall into the trap of making it a villain a week. Like that, I don't want to see. True. But if you can build up some other Superman villains that are then crucial to like the end of that finale story, then like I would also be open to that. Plus it helps kind of like expand the world out a little bit more. Metallo would be awesome. Livewire, like, and I know Supergirl has like had some of these villains too, but whatever, it doesn't, like, to me it's like just do it your own way would be really cool. So.
And before I forget this question was from Barry Allen. So from the comments of the last video.
He also says that the first 2 episodes have already been written. The showrunner has said that. And Alex says Vin Diesel's next villain for using family in the story better than he did.
Oh my god.
That'd be good.
That'd be great.
But I want to come back to the point that, for me, I love when the show, I love moral ambiguity on screen whenever we get it. And I love that in this show, right, it's not always Superman has a physical villain to fight. He's fighting, unemployment. He's fighting the small whale breaking apart. People don't trust each other. He cannot punch punch his way through and solve it. And I love that whole episode of Failsafe, where he is arguing with Lois that we need to have a failsafe. Tomorrow, if that whole dialogue there, I think you said that the whole world is a cardboard for me. I have to control myself, and I feel good when I release myself. So I think all that makes this show great for me. All these elements which we don't really explore much in other media with this character, but any character which forces someone who's a god to think, to ponder about, challenge his ideologies, challenge the idea of Superman. And I think Lex Luthor can do that. I don't want Lex Luthor to be, someone who makes a suit and goes and fights Superman. I want him to, make the world go against Superman. That Superman is not good for humanity. That's more fun for me. And I think any villain, anyone who can bring that, it's more fun than, Superman fighting a physical villain.
True.
Was Failsafe the episode where Jordan got arrested for trespassing and then John skipped school?
Yeah,
I think so. Yeah,
that whole scene was incredible.
Yeah.
And so much of it was on Lois Lane.
Yeah.
And her saying, "I'm sorry for yelling at you, but I'm really upset because I have to go get our son out of jail." This is amazing.
Yeah.
But you're right, and I think like that's what makes that show, what makes the show and the relationships matter so much, is it feels real. And Superman, you're right, doesn't have to fight a big villain. He has to fight a lot of like personal drama. There's a scene earlier in the season where with him and General Sam Lane, where Sam Lane tells the kids like, don't call your dad for help, basically. Like he's too important. He's got other things to deal with. And the exchange in that scene is amazing, where he tells them like, my job is to be their father. That's my job. Don't tell them whether or not they should come to me for help. Like that's what I should be doing.
True.
Those are some of like my favorite moments of season 1, because it has nothing to do with intergalactic villains. It's all about family. And like that to me is, I call this show Smallville 2.0, because when I grew up, the show was from the perspective of the kid. And now it's from the perspective of the father. And like Clark has now become Jonathan Kent. And like that to me is so interesting. And I love that. So yeah, it's a good season. I can't wait to honestly like rewatch the whole thing. And I'm going to watch one episode a day for 15 days when the Blu-ray comes out.
Yeah, I was going to say you'll be watching it in Blu-ray.
Yeah, and I'm sure I'm going to love it probably that much more, because one, I'll have, watched it every day, so I'll be very fresh when I go into every episode, and I will probably catch things that I missed the first time.
Yeah. I think we catch a lot while editing.
Me, man. Even I'm going to start buying Blu-rays.
Look, here's the thing. If you have the space for it, sure.
And okay, what was I to say?
You'll be taking a moment.
I got him too distracted on Blu-rays. He just saw CDs spinning in his head.
Bloodsport as a villain, Flash and Superman, Charity Race.
Oh yeah, I would love to see that.
We should put Bloodsport in there and then have him put Superman in the ICU. I'm like, see, that's where they did it.
And then James Gunn comes on screen and being like,
people will be so confused.
But I would love to see Flash and Superman go at a charity race. I think that would be nice. Like, earlier CW used to release this cage match videos, like short fight clips. So I would love to see them release a small clip like that. Like, just fun. Part of the universe and just a fun race between them.
I got my thought back, and I was gonna say that I love that the show it talks about what Superman should do and should not do, right? It's not just dialogues like we see in Zack Snyder's version, but here we see what way.
Be careful.
We already did 5 hours of live stream on that.
we keep going to it. We keep having discussions.
Manoj, stop. But yeah, I love that even General Lane, like when he says we need to have weapons, I agree with him. We know he's Superman, he's family to him, but to the world he's not, right? And he has to put the world above him. If he knows, what if Superman goes wild tomorrow, what will happen? We have to have a fail safe. And his whole argument, I enjoy it. I love Lois' argument, the way from where she's coming, she makes so much sense. And finally the way they the resolution is so good. It's a balance of everything. We are throwing all of it, but we are keeping a little bit, just for case. And I think that makes so much sense. I love that we go to that gray areas and we don't go there and, just cut out and make it black and white. We still stay there and, deal with that. And they don't rush through it. And I think there are a lot of potential in other shows. We have always seen they reach their point, but they take a stand that, oh, this is wrong, this is right, and we are heroes, we should do this, and that's it. They wrap it up.
True.
And I love that this show takes that route and doesn't become a black and white show. I think that I love that fact.
Yeah, I agree, and I think that those are very interesting questions to ask about Superman, because I think, of course, as the audience, we know, well, Superman's always going to do the right thing, but you're right, in that world, people don't know. People don't know. Like, if we really had a man who came down and he, wore a red cape and he flew around and he saved people, yes, we would be very thankful for it. At the same time, there would be people who are like, well, yeah, like, what if he does turn bad? Like, what if he decides one day that, he doesn't want to protect humanity anymore? Like, what if he's pushed to the edge and he decides to turn? I mean, those are very valid questions. And I mean, I think that's why in Justice League, the animated series, Batman was somebody who had security systems built in for every single member of that team. Was because, well, what if that happened?
Yeah.
And I mean, in the movies, he does turn bad, in some of those visions. He turns evil. And it's like, what are our defenses in case something like that happens?
Yeah.
So I think those are always like very interesting questions to ask, not necessarily from the perspective of the audience, but from the perspective of the people who actually live in that world.
Yeah.
And I think there are we've seen a little bit of moments in the show where people question, well, is Superman really as good as he is? And I like that. And I like that Superman, always comes to defend himself, and he explains to people why, or sometimes people do it on his behalf. So I like that. And I think, again, those types of things are for people who maybe are a little bit cynical towards Superman, and they think that he's too powerful and he's too good. I think that, like, those are the interesting. I don't like the black and white. Like, to me, it's boring to just say Superman is good and that's it. I like the in between, where it's like, Superman's good, here's why he's good and why we can believe in him and why we can trust him. So I like it's not always black and white. And I think sometimes the conversation around these shows and these movies is also very black and white. It's either, did you like the movie or did you not like the movie? I'm like, well, there's a lot of nuance to that question.
Yeah.
And we've spent the last, almost 45 minutes talking about why the show is good. And I think that, to me, is way more interesting than us doing a 5-minute podcast and saying, was the show good? Did you like it? Yeah. Great. Move on. But that's not interesting. Like, people want us to talk about the why.
Yeah.
True. And so I think, like, that goes for the characters and their development as well, is why should I care about this character? And I think the show spent 15 episodes giving you every reason to care about not just Superman, but Clark. Like, if you only care to see Superman, and watching Clark and Lois is boring, then I think the show fails. But I loved watching Superman. I loved watching Clark and Lois. I loved watching the kids, John Henry. Every element of the show worked for me. And I think that's why we're talking about whether or not it's the best DC TV show.
Yeah. I think even Morgan Edge, they did such a good job establishing him. I felt for him. The father, the kind of father he had, the upbringing he went through. You cannot expect him to be rational like Superman. Think like him. He has been, in a way, brainwashed in thinking his race is the only thing that can exist and superior.
Right.
And we cannot talk. And I think I love the metaphors. Even for Superman, it can be a metaphor for nuke. People, the countries have nukes, and how responsible they should be about it. And it's wait, I cannot stop it. Stop me, someone stop me. Then next thing I want to really go to is the brothers. Now I really love that one has powers and one doesn't. What's your take on it?
Wait, what was the question? Sorry.
The brothers, Jordan and
brothers.
Jonathan. So one of them has powers, the other one doesn't. And I love that Jonathan is kind of the human parent, that he doesn't have powers, but he's very wise. And Jordan is kind of Jor-El. I think someone commented on one of the video, but I love the dynamic. I love one has powers, one doesn't. What about you?
I love it too. I'm not completely 100% sold that Jonathan does not have powers, though.
Yeah,
because I remember in the pilot,
we see
him throw a football, and it breaks through the rope on the tire. And on top of that, in the episode where Jordan goes to punch the kid, the football player, Jonathan stops him. And I feel like if you have to kind of like frame by frame it, it almost looks like he uses super speed on his hand to like stop him, even though it still breaks.
Yeah.
So I think he's going to develop his powers differently than Jordan does, which is fine. I think if they would have both just developed powers at the same exact time, it would have been not as interesting. But I think it's really interesting that one, they're two very different types of characters, which I love.
Yeah.
You know, Jordan is very much more of an introverted character who's dealing with a lot of, in the beginning of the show, he's dealing with a lot of mental health issues. And John is a little bit more of like the outgoing one. And he's a little bit more of like that. He's got a little bit more of his mother's confidence. Yeah. Whereas Jordan is a little bit more like how Clark was growing up, where he was a little bit more introverted. He kind of kept to himself. And I love the dynamic between the two. And I love that they're super supportive of each other. And I think it would have been very easy for this show to build out the relationship at the end of the season that they're not that they are against each other or they're jealous of each other. But I really love that they're supportive. And I think that's such a crucial element to the show. And I think it's something that prevents Jordan from going down a path that could be problematic.
Yeah.
And that's not to say that it won't happen. Like, it could get very interesting if Jordan does go down an interesting path that maybe leads him to another place. And then Jonathan starts developing powers and he has to sort of help bring Jordan back to the lighter side. But, you know, that I think is a story for the future. But I really like the dynamic between them. And I think it also, unless you had some sort of an upbringing where brothers were constantly pitted against each other, it would have not made sense for them to not get along.
Yeah.
And so I think that those actors are great. I think that I'm happy that they're very supportive of each other. And I'm very interested to see of how the dynamics shift and how they kind of alter and change in the next season, because now they're both starting to be in relationships potentially. So I like that stuff. To me, it feels very authentic that the children of Lois and Clark are children who love their family and they're very supportive of one another. And of course, there are things that could happen that could change that. But like, I really like them. And I like, again, that one has powers, one doesn't. One could be developing them, but they could all happen their own way. And I think that's, when you mix it up like that, it makes it a little bit more unpredictable, which I love.
Yeah, definitely.
I think I totally agree with what Adam said, but I'm going to add too much because I think Adam covered all facets. But I think it would be very.
I talk too much sometimes. I'm sorry.
No. That's good. You bring out the points in a much better way than I ever could. But I think it would be very interesting if they kind of how Adam said, like, one was an introvert, one was kind of like how they kind of take up of their parents. I think it would be interesting if even in the power sets, they get like half of the powers, like one brother. So they have to team up in the fights and stuff like that and use their powers together.
I love that.
So something like that, I think that would be really cool. So I think for now, it's okay that
we saw the glimpse of that, right? When they take down Steel.
Yeah. That's true. Yeah. So I think something like that, so that that would be a great way of bringing that family element also, like reinforcing that even when they are like super beings. So I think something like that. I think for now it's okay for Jordan just to have his powers, and I think it'll be cool if once when Jonathan maybe gets his powers, like how Adam said, like maybe Jordan would be mentoring him. So you'll get that kind of reversal kind of thing. Yeah. So I think that'll be cool. Really cool.
We have seen so much mentoring on Flash. I'm done with it. I think the way Superman mentors Jordan, it's amazing. The episode he was having that cool breathe, he was sneezing, and then he was hearing a lot. Then he had to take him to the fortress. Yeah, so I think the way they dealt with it was really very nice. And I think Adam mentioned in the chat also that the writing for both of them is really good. I think in the first two episodes they were little off sometimes, like they're being too childish. Maybe, of course, they're teenagers, but I think over the season it became really really good.
Even the actors got more comfortable in the roles.
Oh my god, that scene!
Totally, especially the actor who plays Jordan, Alex Garfin. You can tell that this is his like first major thing that he's done.
Yeah.
And in the first couple episodes, I didn't really know how to feel about him. I was like, but you don't want to be too judgmental because they're young actors and they've never done something this big. And I honestly have no idea what else he did before Superman and Lois. Yeah. But the writing, the character work, like it won me over. And now I'm like, yeah, he's great. Everyone's great. You just get progressively better. And I'm sure in season 2, they'll be even that much more better.
True. Totally agree with that.
And we have to talk about the Cushing family too. They were so good, and their whole arc with the Smallville was so well done. I think I never said, like every character in the show is so good. It's so well written. Like even Kyle, I feel for him. Even Sarah, she has so much to go through. Her problem with the parents, a problem of not accepting Jordan's love, then Jordan being missing. The way they have treated all of it. And by the end, I think I told Manoj also, by the end, I was not really a big fan of their relationship, but by the end, even they got me.
True.
That really worked well for me.
I think they were the most realistic family ever put on screen. All the fighting, all the like, it felt very authentic. It felt very close to life. And I think the way how they tied that to the Smallville, how the town reacted to them, that was also done really well, I thought.
What are your guys' thoughts on Lana not knowing that he's Superman?
Oh,
I feel like that's been a little bit of a, or maybe it hasn't been, but I know that like me, Augustine, and Hector have talked about it because traditionally Lana knows that he's Superman. And this show has kind of completely eliminated that aspect of it. I do think that at some point they will find out that Clark and Superman are the same person. But yeah, what are your guys' thoughts on that not being the case?
I love that scene when she meets Superman face to face and she's just in awe.
I think that's the funny thing is people are always like, how do you not recognize him? He's just not wearing glasses. When you meet Superman, you're not thinking about what does he remind me of? Like it's not, you're seeing Superman, you're like, that's the man who flies, and like you're just overwhelmed, I think.
And
I have like developed this headcanon, like just that his glasses are Kryptonian, and it kind of
changes his appearance.
it messes it up.
See, I told you, I don't see.
Hey,
I'm telling you.
How are you guys?
But I think it's very interesting that Lana doesn't know. I feel like the show wouldn't work if she knew his identity. I think at least the dynamics of what they're trying to do. Although that one scene where they explore his past, and you had this one scene where Superman is like, where Clark goes and he sees her, and so I mean, I think that was the moment. I think even I asked Nuna, like, how does she not know that he's Superman? Like, you saw him during that time, but like putting all that aside, I think in many ways for me, the Cushing family, it represents Smallville. In many ways, like it represents that town. So even all the infighting, I feel like it's in a way encapsulating what the town feels and the dividedness among them. So I think if Lana knows that Clark is Superman, it throws it away, because I feel like a lot of what we feel, what we get of Smallville, like obviously in the last few episodes we got to see more of the people reacting, but other than that, it was mostly we got to experience what Smallville's experiencing through the Cushing family. So I think that was a very important dynamic to how the story functions. So I think the story probably wouldn't be as good as it is if Lana knew, even though I know traditionally, and even if you think about it, you'll be like, she has to know, right? Like, but I think in the story it works.
No, I agree, and I'm also totally okay with it. If anything, I hope the next season we get to see more scenes with Clark and Lana. Because we've had a couple, and I think in the first episode they have a whole scene, when Martha dies and stuff. But then when he goes to the open house and it's just them sitting at a table, I like just hearing a little bit about their past and a little bit of why he thinks she's so important to Smallville. It gives those characters weight, and it gives those characters purpose on the show, and I really enjoy that. So and even if she never finds out, I'm not going to be heartbroken by it. But if it's like one of the last things to happen at the end of the show that Lana finds out, then great.
I think Lana will find out. I think he'll just go up and spin around the
what would be a great way of what would be a great way of her finding out will be similar how we saw in The Dark Knight Rises, how Commissioner Gordon get to know it was Bruce Wayne. And
that would be really cool.
But
that is one of the better revelations of how a character finds out that another character is a superhero. I really like that moment in The Dark Knight Rises.
and I'm not, I'm okay with it. I've never actually seen Lana and Clark together in any media. And for me, when it's Lana, she was her ex and all of that, or not ex, I think he had a crush on her and they liked each other, but it never was
They were
anything.
best friends.
Did you never watch Smallville?
No.
Come on,
I was too late.
Man. You gotta watch it. It's good.
In this time we divide it. So I'm like, oh, has anyone watched Smallville? Okay, Manoj has. Okay.
No, well, I think that's what I like about that show is they really make Lana matter to the universe. And if you've been reading the comic books, she's mattered always. But if you haven't, Superman 3 is Superman 3.
Yeah, that's.
But I think in Man of Steel, we see Lana in like one scene, I think. And that's what I love about Smallville is you go into a show like Superman and Lois, and because even though they're not connected, you have, I think she was in 7 seasons of Smallville concurrently.
I think she was Lex Luthor's girlfriend, I think those
it gets really spicy in that show. And like that show does the work for you, that when you get to something like Superman and Lois and you know that Lana Lang is going to be in it, you get excited because you're like, ooh, I know that there's a history between these characters. So yeah, if you ever get a chance, I wouldn't say you have to watch the whole show if you like don't have the time for it. I haven't
watched it.
But just maybe do like season 1 and season 2. And it'll give you like a little bit of context, so you realize, okay, now I understand this a little bit more.
Yeah, and I think in the beginning I felt like, oh, she's his ex, and that's why some tension. They were good friends and all of that. But I think when after episode 11, when we see, he went to her, he came back for her, and he sees, he's heartbroken, and all the scenes after that, I was so connected with them. The way they were joking around, I'm here new in Smallville just to check out your house. And, she in the finale, she says, I found my best friend here. And like, oh, really? That was such a good scene between them.
And must be a nice guy. She is. And you're like, great.
I think that's okay. I don't really care if she knows or not. I think this relationship between her and Clark is much more, refreshing and great to see than her knowing about Superman. Maybe later, and I think we have moved a long way from the identity reveal thing. I think it has been done so many times.
I think superhero movies in general have kind of moved away from that. Yeah.
So I don't really want to get in that, and I'm okay with that. It doesn't really matter. Whatever it's fun. Whatever looks better, it's great.
Yeah,
that's my thing. And
do you guys think that the evil Superman of that other parallel universe or whatever Earth that is would ever show up?
Good question. I think it's possible, but I worry that it could feel like too much of a repeat of season 1.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Unless the objectives are totally different. If the objectives are totally different and the way they go about it is totally different. But I do think that if you do that, you run the risk of making people maybe feel like, oh, I don't have all this like back, like what now we're going to other universes, like what are we doing here? What's happening? So you do run the risk of that. Maybe I think it was like having John Henry is about like the biggest stretch that you could do. But it works for me. But I think if you did that, if you made that too much of a like common thing, then it's like, well, then anybody could be in this show. And you have to sometimes have some boundaries, right?
True. But I think that's what happened with the Flash, right? Like, after a point of time, like you're like, oh, he can just do this.
I watched a couple of episodes of the new season. I'm like, I don't know what's happening in this show anymore at all. I have no clue what's going on. They had like lightsabers at one point. I'm like, what the hell? What is going on?
Let's not even get to Godspeed. Oh my god. He was talking in my native tongue to Barry. Like, why?
Interesting.
I don't know. I think because the actor is from Indian heritage. That's why. They're like, okay, can you say something in your language? And like, okay. And he says, he butchers it.
Barry's like, I don't know. I don't know what's happening.
But back to the show. Regarding season 2, I think people are talking about someone needs Darkseid. Okay. Interesting.
That'll be very interesting because I think we talked about before, like how he holds a lot of control. I don't know if it's a comic or if it's a cartoon, but when he faces up against Darkseid, that's when he's like, now I don't have to control myself. I can just
Justice League Unlimited, my friend.
Yes.
It's very good.
It's like I would love to see that in the show, like where he just have to control, like he can just go at it. But maybe like that would be like a final season kind of a thing.
Yeah, they really got to earn that.
Yeah.
And about the secret identity thing, remember that scene where I think the DOD is around the Clark farmhouse, and they're Clark and Lois are talking, and he's like, okay, I have to go, and he just looks around and he's like, I'll take the back exit, and the camera stays there on Lois. He goes out there, and then we hear the sonic boom, and then we cut, and that's such a comedic thing, and without doing much,
Yeah.
that was
what's
great.
one nitpick I have about the show?
Yeah.
Is we got to find a way to be able to have Sarah leave situations without just telling her to run home. Because I think it happens like 2 or 3 times, and they did it in the episode before the finale where they get in the car crash and John just tells her, you got to go home and get your parents. I'm like, you're in the middle of nowhere. What do you mean run home? Where are you? What do you mean? They've done that, I think, like 2 or 3 times. And I'm like, we have to find some more creative ways to like fix that problem.
Like when that scene happened, when Jonathan is like, you gotta go home, you gotta get your parents. I'm like, she would reply, am I not in the finale?
I'm in the middle of a forest. It's nighttime. What do you mean? Yeah, it's like those tiny little things, and I'm like, we need to just get Sarah home, so just tell her to run home. You're like, okay.
Like, they easily could have like just shifted that in with her just calling her parents in the forest, like in the road.
Yeah, or just put the car in front of their house.
True.
It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
I think even people were making fun of, Lana's daughter, the second daughter. She's sometimes there, sometimes not there. She's like,
Sophie's with grandma. I'm like, this kid is so neglected. Why did you write her into the show?
Yeah.
Just give them one kid.
That is true, right?
Yeah.
Like the younger daughter doesn't really serve any purpose.
She serves no purpose in the show, which sucks because like that's some young actor who's like trying to have a career, and they give her nothing to do in the show. She's just set dressing, which sucks.
Do you think we can blame COVID for it?
Maybe they had some plans and they had to drop.
Yeah, I mean, it's very possible. It's very possible. Like, I think if you're gonna keep the character in season 2, do something with the character.
She's the villain.
It'd be amazing. Brainiac takes over.
Oh, that'd be so
That'd
good.
be crazy. But yeah, I think that's it's another one of those things that I'm like, yeah, we really don't know what to do with this character, and for whatever reason, we put her in the show when she didn't need to be on the show. And I don't know if it's maybe trying to balance like 2 kids and 2 kids, but she's a completely different age range.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it wouldn't have mattered if it was 1 or 2.
Yeah.
That's totally. I didn't even think about that. I completely forgot about
Always with grandma. Baking cookies.
Do you guys think Sarah will come to know about Jordan? Like his
I was expecting it in the finale. Maybe he'll tell her.
Yeah,
but yeah.
I think so. I think their relationship is going to be very reflective of Lana and Clark's relationship from something like Smallville. And it's very possible that if she finds out, she'll keep the secret and she'll be the only one who knows. And I think that will help kind of elevate Jordan's story to the forefront for future seasons. And it'll be an opportunity for growth for him. So I think that could be really interesting. I think the show would be super ballsy if they were like, we're going to kill Sarah Cushing. What that does to Jordan. I don't think they'll do it. I think that's a little too crazy. But imagine if they did.
Oh, I love that idea. Write it down.
That actress is great. I like that actress. She's really good at that character.
Yeah.
So don't do it yet. Wait, maybe 2 more seasons.
Maybe that will make it more impactful. Something like I think what Game of Thrones did.
Oh yeah.
That'll be really cool.
But I hope they earn that. Like they.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. Don't use it as like don't use it as a point of desperation. Like really make me care.
True.
So if something like that happens, then like, oh no.
Maybe what Titans did with Hank's character. Spoiler.
That
that
was
really
unexpected.
Cool. Yeah.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
saw till
right.
episode 3, right? Nothing else happened. I haven't seen episode 4 yet.
No, I'm not even.
I haven't seen
doing
episode 4 either.
Yeah, same here. But Manoj, let's go to comments quickly and we'll wrap it up. By the time,
okay.
Adam, what do you think is the future of DC TV?
Ooh, good question. I think that there's a lot to learn from Superman and Lois.
Yeah.
I think the length of the show is key.
Okay.
And I know I sound like a broken record, but I've been saying it for like 3 years now. I think that they should just rotate through the shows. So you take the year that they have for for the shows normally and split it down the middle and have 2 different shows throughout the end of the year. So you'll do Flash for 13 episodes, and then when that's over, you'll do the next show.
Yeah.
I really think that is key. And I also think that is advantageous for them, because then it allows them to take whatever money they would have spent on those other 10 episodes and invest it into these, 13, 15 episodes.
Yeah.
And I think that's what Superman and Lois did smartly. I think they took what a budget would have been for a 23 episode show and they made it really, really work for 15 episodes. And I think you see that in the visual effects. Like the visual effects for the show are so good, consistently good.
Yeah.
The cinematography is amazing. The set design work, like everything that's built to make the world feel real feels like it's quality. So I think that's what they can hugely learn. Like what if they did Legends of Tomorrow? Because right now Legends of Tomorrow feels like a very cheaply made, silly science fiction show.
Yeah.
But what if they made it 12 episodes or maybe like a limited 8 episode series, and they really just focused on telling one cohesive story? I think at this point it's too little too late because they've already established themselves.
Yeah.
But in the future, what if we did that with certain shows? And like I think that's where the potentiality comes in, where you could do a Green Lantern, a Flash, like you can do all these other characters, but I think you really have to focus on the story. And you have to really focus on making like more cohesive.
Yeah.
Is what I'll
Let
say.
the story dictate the number of episodes.
Yeah, exactly. If it doesn't have to be 23, don't make it 23. If you can do it in 8, do it in 8, but make it impactful.
Yeah.
True. Totally agree.
But I would say, Flash this season was 18 episodes, 3 episodes from the last season. So 15 episodes. Out of 15, there were 3 fillers. So they were basically 12 and they still couldn't
fillers
deliver.
Are very important characters that we care about so much that it is so heartfelt.
It's weird. Every time I see a clip from that show, I'm like, this just looks like the same show from 6 years ago.
Yeah, man.
And the problem is that the showrunner thinks it's the greatest show ever. So
Yeah, that's
really
the biggest thing. Yeah.
That's just them trying to keep their job.
Probably. I do
okay.
respect that though. Everyone needs a job nowadays.
There's one interesting question about cinematography declining like in the second half of the season. One thing I noticed was I think the color correction changed a lot. I think in the beginning it was more darker, but whereas in the later episodes the saturation was high. What do you think?
Good question. I would probably have to go back and really like look at that more.
Yeah.
But the one thing that I did like was I feel like the quality of the cinematography was consistent, regardless of the color.
Yeah.
And I know by episode, I think 3, they switched cinematographers, and then after that, I'm not sure how many times they change. But yeah, I mean, I never noticed it enough to call it out and to say like, oh, what? It really changed. Why does this look different? It probably, I mean, I'm sure it changes, but there still is like an overall consistency to the quality, which I thought was good. So
yeah,
I think they've done a pretty good job like throughout. I never felt like it was declining too much. Maybe, I mean, like usually with the CW shows, as the episodes go, sometimes you can see you can see the cheapness of the CGI and stuff like that. But I think in this show, there were moments where you were like, okay, that's definitely a CGI double, obviously. But the way they, use, I think we always used to talk about this in the reaction, like the way they used to just go for wide shots, the way they used to cut between
night
the live
shots,
action. setting, having most of the action set in the night so that they can cover up some of the shoddy CGI work, and this fact that the way they used to like cut from a digital double to the actual, like they used to like normal camera tricks.
Stitching is very nice. Yeah,
stitching it to a single shot, but I thought it was done in a way that it never felt very noticeably bad. It felt like, okay, this is just a normal kind of shot. So I thought it was done pretty well. But about the color, I definitely have to go back and because Nuna kept saying this to me in the last few episodes. I think they changed the color, so I need to go back and watch.
Have you seen the set photos of the suit? The suit looks so amazing in the set photos, and I don't know, in the show they just make it less
it looks
saturation.
Muted in the show, I guess.
And I feel like that's there's definitely some influence there, and that's always kind of my thing. Like he wears a suit that's blue, red, and yellow.
Yeah,
it's supposed to be noticeable, like it's supposed to be prominent, and I don't think you need to like scale it back. I think you just lean into it. Otherwise, why the hell does the suit blue, red, and yellow? Make the suit black then. If it does, at that point, like there's I feel like it's like two very principal concepts about Batman and Superman is like Batman wears the suit that he wears because he wants to hide himself in the shadows. Superman wants to make himself very well seen. So just lean into it.
I wonder if the suit doesn't test good with the type of style of cinematography they have. Maybe that's the reason. I'm not quite sure why they... Because usually CW shows are pretty colorful. Like
yeah, it's true.
Because yellow is muted.
The one thing about the suit is I would almost like to see it with less padding in the next season. I've been to the gym where Tyler Hoechlin has worked out. That man is not small. Like he's a very well-built man.
Yeah.
And I would like to maybe see a little bit more of him through the suit than the padding. That's like my only real nitpick. Otherwise, I think the suit's actually a really nice design.
Yeah.
There was an episode where he was shirtless. And he looked pretty ripped in that episode. So
he's playing Superman. That's the thing too. I think. Yeah, I think people get really hung up on Superman needs to be huge, and I'm like, no, he doesn't. His power comes from the sun. Yeah, he could be skinny or he could be big. It doesn't matter.
Yeah,
that's true. I think Henry Cavill is to be blamed for that. Like, he is like so ripped.
I think it works for what they were trying to do. But
even he wears a muscle suit inside.
I know, which is crazy. Like, you wear a muscle suit? Have you seen what you look like? Have you looked in the mirror? You're gigantic. Why the hell are you wearing a muscle suit? Yeah, I know The Rock has actually talked about that when making Shazam. They pulled a lot of the padding out of the suit because they gave him a suit with padding. He's like, do you know who I am? And I'm like, yeah, you're The Rock. You shouldn't have an ounce of padding. True. But I think there's like a level... I think they need to kind of figure out how to get the suits to mold to the body more. And I don't know how you do that without suffocating people.
Yeah.
But it also needs to be, it almost needs to be like a skin on top of the actual skin. But I have no idea how you make that happen. Christopher Reeve's suit was just like a material.
Just a cloth,
they just kind of hugged him. But those guys work out so much. And it's almost a bummer. And then I'm like, they're wearing padding. Like Shazam suit in the first movie, holy Christ! The amount of padding in that thing, I'm like, that's insane. Zachary Levi is like a very well-built human being. So I would like to see a little less padding in the suits because sometimes I feel like it makes the head look really small. So
like Shazam, like the suit looks a lot better in the second, like the set photos, I guess. I think Deadpool is the only movie character so far that doesn't wear a muscle suit. Like. I think they tried it didn't really work. So they just
even the Flash's suit, I think it's totally fine for how it's made and like how it's presented.
Yeah.
It's a great suit. Like he doesn't have to have a muscle suit. Like it's not about that. I think it really works well for that. So that's my only like little nitpick is like maybe less padding.
Yeah. Well, let's quickly take the comments.
Yeah, quickly go. I think I'll just start with Charlotte McCarthy's comment. Like, she's a regular in all of her comments. She leaves really nice comments in all of her videos. But for this one, I'll probably make it very quick. So she says, okay, so I'll try not to leave too long of a comment this time. But this episode had me in tears throughout the whole entire episode. actually make that throughout the whole entire season. In every single episode, I always somehow ended up crying both my eyes and heart out, like literally. And I mean, this episode was simply amazing, epic as hell, awesome, intense, sad, and happy. This show is literally my one and only superhero TV series for me. It's all I watch in superhero TV genre, really. Definitely excited for season 2. And thanks for the shout out as always. Thanks a lot, Charlotte McCarthy. You've left. She has also said some things about season 2 about how she thinks things will progress, and I think it lines up with some of the things we talked about already. So, but anyway, thanks a lot, Charlotte, for the comment. Next is a comment from Gavin01 who says this season represented Superman so well. Someone who's good for goodness sake. Great job with Lois and the kids as well as Steel. Nothing but praise from me. And then Barry Allen, we talked about this. He says that the showrunner recent interview said that season 2 villain will not be another Kryptonian. So that's how they're going to go in season 2. Next comment is by Try1658 who says Nat will be a season regular in season 2, so we'll be seeing a lot of her. They all will be trying to adjust and deal with the new family dynamic, which will probably be the core family throughout the entire season. So
I'm into it. 3 families now: Cushing's, Kent's, and Irons.
Steel.
That's right.
I think there was a question about will she take up the mantle of Steel, but I think it's too early. Too early.
Look, I'm still waiting for Steel to get a red cape and an S on the chest. Okay. So then we can talk about other people getting the mantle.
You know, it'll be cool if they use the death of Superman and then after that he decides to put the cape in his suit.
Oh.
Like as an honor to
are the writers watching this?
You better tweet that because I want to retweet it. Because I love that. That right there, that's how you earn it. That's how you earn that.
Yes.
I love that.
Next comment is by judiciously using sarcasm to induce numbness. I think it's Chandler Bing. I think. So he says the sad version of the main theme used in the fortress scene is amazing. I totally agree. The music has been phenomenal throughout this.
Do you think we said goodbye to Fortress, or was it just about the Jor-El?
That's a good question. That's a very good question. I still think that there is, well, it's tough because that whole control panel and everything was destroyed.
Yeah,
true.
So it's like, what is this? What is the fortress good for now? But I mean, they didn't get rid of that crystal; they just buried it. So I think that there is a future there with that crystal. I think there will be. I don't think we're fully done with the fortress yet. I think it'll still be important to Jordan's development. With his superpowers, and if we do have things like Death of Superman or whatever, like I still think that you could incorporate that somehow. So I don't think it's completely gone. I think there will still be something. At least I hope.
True.
Yeah. And I think
no, I'm not done with the comments.
Sorry.
No, but it's pretty quick. It's all short. Like Barry Allen who's asked, would you prefer a Batman and Superman crossover or a Flash and Superman crossover?
Flash any day.
What about Adam?
I'm wearing a Batman t-shirt. I'm sorry, but Flash any day.
I have so many thoughts about this. I think in terms of the show, Flash would make sense.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Flash is already an established character, and I really like Grant Gustin. So I would say Flash.
Okay. I think definitely just seeing Grant and Tyler Hoechlin together, it's just great.
Yeah.
I think a lot will depend on who the cast as Batman, which version it would be and stuff like that. But I think hypothetically though, just in a normal sense, I think Batman Superman any day. Like but in this universe
one of my favorite episodes of Supergirl is when Flash comes into her world. I love that episode. I think Grant Gustin was so good in that episode where he's explaining the multiverse and all that. I loved all of that stuff. I
back in the good days of the Flash. When _18 says, hey guys, I remember seeing both of you with Aksan during his season 6 Flash review. I think it was season 5, but okay. I hope you do another stream with him in the future. We'll do. We have Adam this time though. Superman and Lois season 1 was amazing. All characters were well written. The music was so soothing. Flash writers should watch the season to understand how to write Barry plus Iris. It is the Flash showrunner though.
He did Flash season 5.
Season 5.
It's I don't know.
So Anyway, moving to the next comment by Symbiotic, who says Love season 1 of Superman, but season 1 of Arrow and season 1 of Flash is still greater than this show. I don't care about the CGI or the cinematography as people nowadays do, as much as the storytelling wise. Flash and Arrow season 1 are still greater, at least in my opinion. Predictions for Superman season 2 is we will see Superman versus Superman rogues. As the showrunners confirmed, season 2 villain won't be a Kryptonian. We'll see a team of rogues versus Superman. We never got Flash versus Flash rogues on Flash, but I predict we'll see the next season on Superman. And I also predict we'll see more of Killgrave and Intergang next season. Bruno Mannheim, the leader of Intergang, maybe season 2 Big Bad. If you don't know, Intergang is a terrorist organization with weapons from Apocalypse. Intergang was mentioned on Superman and Lois episode 4. They were the ones who helped escape Killgrave.
Yeah.
Do you guys think Morgan Edge will be back? Like the character?
Good question.
Even his assailant is right with DOD, right?
I'm torn. Would I like to see him back? Yes.
Would he be like an ally or something? Like,
I don't know. I don't know about that. I don't know about being an ally.
Yeah.
I like the actor that played him.
Yeah.
And I think that they did it was very interesting to see Morgan Edge being merged in with like another character. So could I see him back? For sure. But I like wonder like, well, what is he gonna do?
I know. Put him in the Suicide Squad. Like a CW Suicide Squad.
Oh
Put
my
him in
God.
there.
Yeah, but wouldn't that mean that how do you control that? How do you control a character
That's
like
true.
that?
That's true.
That's hard.
Kryptonite bomb in his head.
Yeah. Lord.
Oh man.
Could be
Yeah.
fun.
That'll be fun, yeah. Two more comments. Amaru Duarte official. I think I definitely butchered that. Completely sorry. Hello from Uruguay. Nice reaction. Thanks. And then last from Bill Trick, was his great reaction, guys. So that's it for the comments. Thanks a lot for the comments, guys. Really appreciate it.
And I think we covered everything. Hopefully, and
Moral of the story: we really liked the first season.
yes.
Yeah. Come on, guys, say some questions so we can like keep Adam here for longer.
Yeah. But I'm
We've been
really
at this for 8 hours.
yes, we can. But I have to say, everyone in the chat, thank you for keep the chat going. I'm sorry couldn't take everything up. I went through all of it. Whatever was we could take up, we did, and I think most of it we covered throughout the session. But again, thank you, Adam, for doing this. It's always lovely to have you, and it's still, I'm punching myself, it's still a dream. Oh my God, I'm talking to Adam Hlavac, and it's great, man. Thank you for doing this.
Yeah, no, thanks for having me. It's very rare that I, outside of with these guys, that I get to talk about Superman and people who love Superman. It's not as common as you would think. So thank you guys for having me. This was fun.
Yeah. And guys, if you enjoyed watching me and Manoj talking and geeking out like Adam did, do subscribe to the channel, check out other reactions and reviews, and we do live sessions every weekend. We'll try our best, and definitely do that. And definitely check out, if you haven't, I don't know why, this guy is amazing. Do check out Heroes Reforged.
It's not possible.
Yeah, it's like you cannot exist in this world without watching their content. And guys, do check them out, link in the description. Follow him on Twitter. And again, thank you for joining us, and we'll see you next time. Keep geeking out.
Bye.
All right.
Should we stay?